Hey everyone, welcome back to Wix Fix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan, and in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you about stacks inside of Wix Studio. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we are in Wix Studio, and I have a very basic section here built with just some text elements over here, and we have an image on the right. Now, what a stack is if I select all of these different elements, and just so you know, the way I'm selecting these elements is I'm selecting one element, and then on the keyboard, I'm holding Shift, and I'm clicking the other elements. So now we have all of them selected. And once we select all the elements, you'll notice that it says stack right here. So if we go ahead and stack these together, you'll notice that it kind of becomes its own element. If I want to move the stack around, there's this little blue square thing here with this little icon. You'll notice as soon as I hover my cursor over it, it has the little hand, and it also pops up a little text that says drag. So then I can drag this stack to any location that I want, but I'm going to go ahead and undo that. But the important thing is these four elements in a way have become one element. Now, if I click into the stack, I can then go ahead and edit the elements inside of it. However, if I use the little breadcrumbs and grab the stack, I can then, of course, adjust it. I can even adjust like the spacing of the stack and stuff like that. But I'm not really going to be doing that. But the next thing I kind of want to cover is the spacing. So right here in between each of these elements, you will notice that there is this little blue line that goes across the width. And if I hover over the middle part of it, where this little blue little tool is, it shows you not only can we drag this to increase or decrease the space in between the elements, but it'll show you how many pixels of space there is in between them. So let's just say we wanted 12 spacing in between this heading text and the paragraph. We can easily do that. But let's say this one is 40, this one maybe is 100 pixels, and maybe we don't really like that. So what we can do is actually come over into the inspector panel in the design tab. Under layout, you'll be able to see that we can actually change the item spacing from mix, because right now we have 100, we have 12, and we have 40. So it's a mix of spacing. What we can actually do is switch this over to scale, and we can maybe set this to 12. And now all of the items have 12 pixels of spacing in between each of the elements inside of the stack. Now, I want to also kind of mention, if I go ahead and unstack this, and let's just say we just like kind of carelessly place these things on the page, and we can easily grab all of these items, stack them together. Then under the layout option, we can press align to left, and it's going to snap all of the items over to the left hand side, which I think is really cool. And then again, we can go ahead and adjust the spacing in between all of the items to create something that looks like this. So as you can see, creating stacks is actually kind of a method for you to carelessly kind of place things on the page, stack them together, and then you can align them and add spacing in between each of the elements very easily. And that's typically what I do. If you've seen some of my other tutorials and I'm trying to show you an example of something, I literally throw on a couple text elements, maybe a button, stack them together, and then I use these exact tools to help align and add item spacing just to make it look a little bit cleaner, but it helps me do it so much faster. But another really cool thing about stacks is right now, listed little drop down here, you can see that our stack is vertical, which means we have elements vertically stacked on top of each other. However, if we click on this little drop down, we can see that we can set this to horizontal stack. Now, obviously, this is not a case where you'd probably want to use a vertical stack. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to horizontal. Where we could potentially use a horizontal stack, even though I will tell you why I don't recommend doing this, is if we grab this stack right here and we use my shift key and click on this image, we can actually stack these together. So because these were positioned horizontally to each other, it automatically applied a horizontal stack. Now, over here on the right hand side, we have our image, and over here on the left hand side, we actually have the original stack. So another thing that I want to kind of note here is that we can have stacks inside of other stacks. Now, like I was saying before, this is probably not the best case to use a horizontal stack. For example, professionals would typically go ahead and section this section off to look something like this, have the image over here on the right hand side, maybe have 10% padding to create something, or 10% margin on the image to create something like this. And then over here on the left hand side, they would create a stack that looks like this with the item spacing, and then they could just center the stack inside of the section. So this is typically how a professional would build a section, use the section to stack things horizontally. That's not really where you'd want to do it. Instead, where you might want to do it is, let's say we want to have two buttons side by side. So if I go ahead and unstack this really quickly, I copy and paste this button, bring it down, and we change the design. Well, let's say we wanted to stack these all together. So as you can see, when I select all 5 of these elements, so these 2 buttons and these, you're going to see it doesn't give us the option to stack them together. It offers to put them in a container, which in this case, we don't really want to do. So instead, what I want to do is actually grab both of these buttons, we'll stack them together. Then once we have that stacked, maybe we can adjust the spacing just a little bit. And then because of what I showed you earlier, you can have stacks inside of other stacks. So I'm going to grab these other elements here, including this stack, and then I'm going to stack these together. So that's kind of a professional way of using horizontal and vertical gaps. It's kind of a way to group them together. And again, you can kind of have these groups inside of other groups, or stacks inside of other stacks. And kind of like I mentioned before, these are technically their own elements. So you can come over to the design, and let's just say for fun, we wanted to add a background color. Maybe we wanted to add a little bit of padding, so maybe like 7.5%, and we apply that to all sides. And I have this text that's set to hug, so maybe I just set this to scale proportionately, and I bring this over here to look like this. But we grab the stack again, and maybe we can round the edges to like 24 pixels. So we can design the stack however we want. So as you can see, when we actually have the stack, so we actually have the option to actually add designs to the stacks themselves. And so even this stack with the buttons inside of it, we could again go ahead and design it. Maybe we could add padding like 24 pixels, add that to all sides, and we can even round the edges here. Maybe 24 pixels is a little too much. And we could have something that looks like that inside of this stack. So as you can see, stacks are kind of a really cool tool, not just to group things together, but add design to it as well. But that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's quick little video. If you all did learn something, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Wix Studio content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I will see you on the next one.